So without further ado, let's welcome Carlos Camacho. Where's the sounds, Kamal? Got to pull up the sounds to the
Oh,
show.
which one y'all want? You the air horns? Y'all
Yeah,
want
the air horns.
yeah?
The air horns, yes.
Good evening, everyone.
What's good,
Good
bro?
evening.
How you doing?
So Carlos, we're very excited to have you. We at the New Party, we believe in putting stories out there that many people don't know that affect all Americans, not left, not right. So I'm so grateful to have met you through this. Before we get into into you talking and us asking you questions, I'm going to familiarize you guys with the case back. I think it was the 90s, very similar to what's about to go down. Aaron Brockovich.
In the movie Erin Brockovich, Julia Roberts played the tough and relentless paralegal who brought PG&E, Pacific Gas and Electric, to its knees. One memorable scene, Brockovich fighting PG&E lawyers to compensate her clients, the residents of Hinckley, California.
I want you to think real hard about what your spine is worth, Mr. Walker. Or what you might expect someone to pay you for your uterus, Miss Sanchez. Then you take out your calculator and you multiply that number by 100. Anything less than that is a waste of our time.
PG&E eventually wrote checks totaling $333 million to more than 600 residents.
So they come to you and they say $333 million, and you were like,
holy shit. I mean, it's pretty cool. I was excited for these people.
13 years later, the excitement is now replaced with fear. Recent evidence indicates the same underground chemical plume that caused so much illness and heartbreak here is growing.
And I'm thinking somebody somewhere has been asleep at the wheel.
after an enormous settlement and the worldwide attention that came with a Hollywood film, people who live here thought their problems would have ended a long time ago. But it turns out those toxic chemicals have been spreading over time.
That's a finding by the State Water Control Board. Brockovich puts the blame squarely on PG&E.
This is a company that has great technology. They certainly have the money. You can't control this plume here in Hinckley after everything that's happened. It makes no sense to me.
The plume is 2 miles long and nearly a mile wide. It's made up of hexavalent chromium, a chemical once used by PG&E in the 50s and 60s to prevent rust in the machinery at a nearby plant. It's the same chemical that seeped into the groundwater here and can cause life-threatening illnesses. Roberta Walker received an undisclosed amount of money in the settlement for illnesses she blames on the contamination.
I've had several stomach surgeries. I've had a hysterectomy. I've had several lumps removed from my breast, and I've got asthma now.
So when Walker learned the hex chromium is now moving towards the very home she moved to get away from the danger, she naturally thought,
oh my God, it's like being struck by lightning twice. You know, it's like, how can this possibly be happening to me again? It's like a cancer.
PG&E says great strides have been made in cleaning up the contamination. So how could this happen after everything the community endured? A top company official agreed to meet with us at its San Francisco headquarters.
These people, they're concerned about their water. They're concerned about their way of life. Are those concerns justified?
The approach that we're taking with the residents in Hinckley is we're committed to working with those individuals that live in Hinckley, either directly over the plume or in the adjacent vicinity to the plume.
The utility denies it's been asleep at the wheel and says it's difficult to contain the chemical, but also says it has a comprehensive plan to do so, including pumping in more than 100,000 gallons of fresh water each day into the underground plume to block the contaminants from advancing. It says the water quality on or near the plume meets safety guidelines set by the state of California. But with growing unrest, not to mention bad PR, the utility, as of last week, took the momentous step of offering to buy all the properties of those affected. We're told it could be as many as 100 homes.
So, Carlos, when we first talked about this, you kept saying this is like Erin Brockovich. Can you briefly tell us why you see that comparison and how you found out about what's happening, and just give a high overview of what we're talking about with the ship?
Yeah, so to be completely transparent and blunt, I've never been an environmentalist or anything from the start. Never really dipped into it. I only started learning about this as we uncovered more reasons why the ship shouldn't be sunk. They started out as a preservation effort to save the ship because she's nationally historic. However, as we were dipping into her 1952 paint schedules and all the different documents that were pertaining to the long history of the ship, we found that there was a substance in there called zinc chromate that was coated over the ship. The zinc chromate itself is a well-known product used through the 30s to the 50s by the Navy and other marine engineers to coat vessels internally and externally to go against corrosion, particularly with salt water. Now, and that being said, this particular vessel was over heavily used with zinc chromate because the designer wanted to preserve the vessel so well, which is why it's been preserved for 75 years. And that being said, we ended up coming across testing samples and found out that within the testing samples themselves, there was a high volume done by York Analytic, and we have those documents where the volume was measured in parts per billion. Typically, they measure parts per million in this product. If to give you reference, the EPA threshold is only 50 parts per million that's allowed. The WHO is only 100 parts per million. To give you reference with the hexavalent chromium itself, the measurement that came back in this as a solid state was 4,500,000 parts per billion. That is like an atomic bomb within this. It's 5 to 6 orders higher magnitude than the EPA and WHO standards, and it's something that they're willingly and actively going to be putting into the Gulf National Seafood Supply. What they're trying to do is sink the ship for an artificial reef. They're trying to promote diving and tourism. As many people might know, your skin is your largest organ. You'll uptake this in your skin. Anybody diving on it, it'll go into the fish population. It gets into the reproductive organs, everything else. You're just hearing the young lady talk in the Aaron Brockovich video about how she had to go through all these different surgeries and everything else. This stuff is deadly. It is the deadliest carcinogen in man. When this gets into the reproductive systems, into your body, cancers, all kinds of different things come from this. It is some wicked stuff. And in the case of PS&G, they had this in a liquid form where they were flushing it through the pipes. And what they were doing was they were discharging it into the soil in order to, coat the inside of the pipes that they were coating. They did this for decades. Nobody knew about it. What happened was it went into the well water, because the whole area in Hinckley was well water. People were eating it, drinking it, showering in it, the works. They moved the people 6 miles plus out. A lot of people thought it was a well story that was, happy ending at the end of the day. Aaron Brockovich actually went recently, I believe it was 2023, don't quote me exactly on it. She went back to the site, and, nearly 30 years later, this hexavalent chromium has moved its way through the water column 6+ miles out and reaffected the population. So this is highly mobile in the water. And now when you talk about going from a contained environment in a situation like Hinckley to now the open Gulf currents, which are warm currents, you're talking about a leaching situation. This stuff put in there is going to be a leaching situation that is literally going to spread. And what's important about this is a 990-foot vessel that's not dangerous above the water, but only if they directly put it into the salt water, because it will break it down. Mm-hmm. Within this being said, there's over 300 million square feet of space internally and externally. These coatings are in internal and external compartments. If you go and Google the ship SS United States, you will see this yellow paint everywhere in pictures. There's thousands of pictures documented over the years. That is zinc chromate. That's what has the hexavalent chromium in it. This county does no plan to remediate it at all. We've gone on public record to approach them in public county meetings constantly, time and time again in Euclid County. They have dismissed it. They've ignored our warnings. They've said they'll table it for a further discussion, haven't done anything about it. And at the end of the day, they're saying, oh, the vessel's clean. And then we just got the recent one with the National Resource Manager who's in control of this project. He just went on just the other day and he said, zinc chromate is not a federally regulated material that requires removal. Well, that's a lie.
Let me Let me show them what this ship looks like, Carlos, because I think everyone's very,
Mhm.
very visual. This is a news story about it.
The United States is sitting in Mobile Bay. You've got crews working to make it environmentally safe before the ship becomes a reef off the coast of Florida.
Yeah, but not everyone is happy with the plans to sink the ship. Some are calling it a needless destruction.
Our Claudia Nichols has been following this story. Claudia, legal action is being taken to preserve the ship.
Yeah, that's right, Lenise and Cameron. A nonprofit called the New York Coalition to Save the SS United States filed a petition to say no to reefing and return the ship to her birthplace in New York. Along with filing a federal complaint, they also sent a letter to the President of the United States urging him to take executive action and allow the U.S. to purchase the ship for public use. While some are on board with the SS United States becoming an artificial reef, others are desperately trying to keep her afloat. The petition created by the New York Coalition to Save the Ship has received over 7,000 signatures. The coalition argues sinking the ship not only destroys historical artifacts, but claims the SS United States is protected under the National Historic Preservation Act of 1966. They also raise concerns over possible underwater corrosion to the ship that could create hazards for divers in the presence of PCBs that could be detrimental to Florida's coast. In 2011, the SS United States Conservancy purchased the ship with a similar goal as the coalition to preserve the historic vessel.
Ever since that point, we looked to permanently develop the ship, to move it to a pier where she could be permanently redeveloped. We had all kinds of proposals over the years, but had not been able to get anything completely launched.
Warren Jones is on the board of directors for the SS United States Conservancy and says they face some roadblocks trying to keep her afloat.
Our pier operator in Philadelphia, Penn Warehousing, wanted us to leave the pier, and they doubled the rent, and they moved to evict us from the pier.
Jones says a lawsuit was filed in the U.S. District Court in Philadelphia where the judge required the ship to leave the pier within 90 days.
We were simply up against a court-enforced deadline and had to be off the pier in 90 days, and we were not able to do so. So we were stuck with the choice of, do we scrap this great ship or do we reef her? Not choices that we ever wanted to have, but we thought the dignified approach was to reef the ship.
Jones says that's when Okaloosa County came forward and purchased the ship for $1 million.
We fought the good fight, and I think the folks at Okaloosa understand, again, the passion that we have for this ship and wanting to continue her legacy, which we will do in a museum that's being planned.
Jones says the Conservancy.
Okay, Gray. This is our co-founder, Gray Mars. Gray, what's your question?
Hey, Carlos. So if the SS United States is sunk despite the laws, data, and alternatives you've laid out in your master advocacy document, what precedent does that set for historic preservation and environmental law in America, and who should the public hold accountable?
So I'm sorry, I missed the tail end of that question. You kind of cut out there.
What precedent does that set for historic preservation and environmental law in America, and who should the public hold accountable?
Okay, now I got it. Okay, so yeah, so that's a good question. The bottom line is this: is if the ship is sunk, it's going to have a great impact overall to a lot of different things. I think to answer the precedent part, it'll basically, if you look at our nation, we have a lot of historic vessels. You know, you can go to Olympia in Philadelphia, the Battleship New Jersey. You can go down a list of different historical monuments, you name it, that are all on the register, whether they're ships, whether they're statues, whatever. If you set a precedent that a vessel that is on the National Register is not protected, even though the statutes call for it, and you go and you sink it, you destroy it, you tear it down like you saw the last few years, I mean, you are setting a dangerous precedent going forward where history means nothing. And at the end of the day, you know, whatever party, whatever person can come in, private, public, government, and say, be gone with it. You know, we're going to utilize it for what we're doing. And like in this case, they're using it to promote their own self-interest to generate dollars. It's a very dangerous precedent and one we can't set. And it's something that has to be upheld. You know, laws are made for a reason. And at Shore, at this point, you know, if we're not doing our due diligence in order to make sure that we're following those statutes and we're honoring our heritage, what are we really building for America 250 is what we have to ask ourselves. Because this is something that's happening during America 250. I mean, this I didn't get too much into it, but this ship is historically important. I mean, there's so much history in this ship, culture-wise, I mean, heritage-wise, record-wise. I mean, the list goes on and on. It is a fantastic ship. It is the greatest ship ever built by World War II veterans and American shipbuilders in our history of our nation. This ship literally is if you look at President Donald Trump's maritime dominance executive order, for example, it talks about maritime greatness. I mean, this ship is the embodiment of it. This ship has been around for over 75 years now and is still solid and strong. I was on her back in Philadelphia. I mean, she is solid. This is what American ingenuity and greatness looks like. And when you go and you try to take a vessel like this, that is literally blood and steel from our veterans that built it and forged it, and you sink it during our America 250. I mean, what are you really setting as an example to the nation and to the rest of the world and to the next generation of children, about our heritage? What does that say? So.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to allow Enzo to ask the next question.
Cool. Thank you for coming, first off, Carlos. I'm somebody who actually did sign the petition a while back for the ship. I live in New Jersey. I've seen it plenty of times going to Philadelphia. It's pretty much just a monument at this point, seeing it sit in the Delaware Bay. My question would be, let's say we did get it saved. What would the steps be forward? What would we turn it into? Some type of museum ship? And what could we do to keep that going?
So the answer is real simple, actually. And number one, hey neighbor, how you doing? And thank you for signing the petition. Right now, as you heard on the news clipping before, they were talking about the New York Coalition, which is our sister partner company organization. We're both trying to save the ship. We're working together. Through their efforts, they were able to secure the New York City Council, who recently just passed a resolution 649A, which is calling on Congress and the president to save the ship. That passed unanimously. I mean, the city of New York totally supports it. This was her original port of register. However, that resolution can't stand on its own because you need funding partners, you need private-public partnership, you need a legal pathway in order to secure the ship and pay for the ship's future. That would come in the aspect of actually two documents of legislation that I have recently authored and drawn up as draft proposals for the president and for Congress. One of them is the America 250 Maritime Heritage Act. That one is a veteran initiative for reintegration programs for our veterans, because I want to stress something here. The ship is not dangerous above the water. It can be treated. You treat these things. You can't do that under the water. So if it's treated above the water, you could repurpose it for whatever program you want, and it gets treated all the time. So in that aspect, we wanted to do American trade schools. We want to do veteran reintegration programs, STEM schools. We wanted to do, job training and job placement, everything, veteran wise, because ultimately right now our veterans are getting the shaft. And that's something I'm actually near and dear for me, because I serve as New Jersey ambassador for Veterans for America First as one of my other roles. And so veterans are very important to me. And I'd rather see the ship be repurposed for veterans and our youth going forward and as a national monument, which is what that act calls for, than to be sunk for selfies under the water while polluting the Gulf. The other flip side of that is I wrote a executive order proposal for the President Donald J. Trump, and it's called the Great American Comeback. That essentially lays out the legal pathway and the funding options in order to acquire the ship, and then ultimately fund it going forward through MARAD, which is the Maritime Administration, and other federal government ownership, if the ship were to take it back as a monument. Now, the way that would work is basically the government would come in, they would use an amendment that is a legal pathway, they would obtain the ship through a taking clause, and then what they would do is they would give the county just compensation. So that's how they acquire the ship. And now the flip side of that is there's 8 SL7 fast sea lift ships that MARAD currently owns and are actually going to be disposing of. So essentially think about it as a ransom situation where the government can say, hey, here's an SL7 to meet your artificial reef goals. We want our first lady back, and we're gonna make her a monument, and we're gonna do these programs for our veterans, et cetera, et cetera. It's a win-win for everybody. They're not exploring that option. And the best part is it nearly costs nothing for anybody. I mean, if you look at the money that's going across overseas and all these other different programs and stuff, why can't we do something for our veterans? Let's just be honest. It's like it's a drop in the bucket. You talk about $300 million roughly for the government. and through private-public partnerships. I mean, that's what America 250 is about. That's what preservation is about. That's what we should be doing, not for 1%, literally 1% that dives of the population. So,
Kamal, did you think of a question?
I ain't gonna lie, this shit sounded like Chinese to me. I kind of get it, but the ship terms and stuff like that, man. If it help out the veterans, man, I'm all for it. I do have a question. Was that area on the East Coast, the PG&E, the story over there? Is that what the?
that was so it's actually interesting. There's a couple different situations you got to deal with. That situation was Hinckley, California. So that was out west. There's also, if you heard about the Flint, Michigan situation, which was devastating, that's another thing that was lead based. That is another devastating issue where, the public health safety was at risk. You could take that, you could take BP, which was in the Gulf of Mexico at the time. This has been time and time again where regulatory agencies don't act and they're not following the total protocols. People who are permitting to do certain things aren't following the regulations. And so, you're talking, this kind of stuff happens everywhere. West Coast, East Coast, North, South. I mean, it's happening common all the time, and it needs to be addressed.
Yeah, because the PG&E thing, I thought, because I was getting confused, because the ship is over on the East Coast, right?
So it was originally in Philadelphia as of a few months ago. As of March, she arrived in Mobile, Alabama, is where she currently is actively being taken apart in order to be sunk. They've already removed her funnels and everything else. And they're getting ready to deploy as early as February, they're saying, which is putting us up against a wall. Yeah, so this is a serious thing. And I just want to say one quick thing on this is that, for anybody, whether you're, left, right, red, blue, this is a bipartisan issue first and foremost. But what I want to say is the fallout from this, if this happens, is going to 100% target the Republican Party and any MAGA, Maha, America First agenda. Because when you think about it, if our Gulf seafood gets contaminated, guess what? We're going to China. We're going overseas to other different countries to get food to come in. So there goes America First out the window. Make America healthy again. Guess what? Now all of a sudden you have all this chronic sickness going around, and literally every American across at the dinner tables. Well, there goes Maha, MAGA. Guess what? The president, the movement, the Republican Party. Look what they did. Don't touch them in the polls, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, this is a silent attack, and people need to wake up. This is coming from a red county, by the way. Waukegan County, Florida is a red county.
Very red, extremely red.
So think about the media perspective that this is going to have, and what the Democrats will use. I try not to make it a partisan issue, but this is ultimately going to affect everyone on a bipartisan level.
Okay, I do have one more question, and then this shit ain't turning to Chinese, it's turning to English now. So you're saying that if this ship is sunken, the story that we saw with the PG&E stuff in Northern California, because I know about PG&E, that's why I was confused a little bit. That would happen if the ship is sunken, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Because essentially what it is the zinc chromate I spoke about. Mm-hmm. There's literally 53,000 tons of this on there. It equivalates to almost like 9,000 gallons of paint. This stuff is chemically bonded into the steel. So this stuff is going to go in the water. It's not going to be taken off. You can't superficially take it off the surface like they're claiming they're doing. You have to literally abrasively get this off, chemically burn it off. I mean, there's a lot of different processes to remove this stuff. They're not doing it. They're operating under a small budget. To give you a reference, they used $10.1 million of tax tourism dollars in order to fund this, by the way, to destroy National Register property. Yeah, that's bed tax that they're using to destroy National Register property and pollute the Gulf. Only 7.228 million of that is actually going to deployment, towing, and remediation. That's nowhere near sufficient. Have you guys ever heard of the USS Oriskany, for example, the Great Barrier Reef in the Gulf?
No, somebody was talking about it. And
so that was, to make it short, that was a Navy project back in 2003, 2006. It was a 4-year project. It turned out to be, and they had started out roughly around $8 to $10 million for the budgeted project. And again, this is from the Navy. EPA came in, Florida Fish and Wildlife came in. They said, no, you can't do this. You got to get rid of these chromates on here. You got to get rid of this, PCBs. By the time they were done, it was a $22 million project, and 4 years later. This county is trying to do this in 1 year of getting the vessel with half that budget. So you tell me who's cutting corners. So, and this vessel has twice the amount of the zinc chromate on there.
Okay.
Carlos, is there anything that we can do as constituents to help you in your cause?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. First and foremost, we do have an active case in the courts. We're trying to go. We are a grassroots root movement. We assembled because of this. So if anybody would like to help donate, sign a petition, you can go to www.ssuspreservationfoundation.com. You can sign our petition. You can sign our donate if to help with our.
Wait. You said it too fast. Can you write it in the chat and I'll put it in the.
I know I'm so quick. You know me.
Yeah.
So I'll put that in the chat there. But yeah, if you could do that, that's first and foremost. Write your constituents, call your congressmen, your senators. If you have a connection somehow, some way to President Trump or someone in your cabinet, and you have a position of influence on your podcast, wherever, spread the word, because we have 2 months. Otherwise, this is irreversible. You're a 990-foot vessel, 53,000 tons getting dropped in the Gulf, and that's it. It's done. You're not pulling it out. So I'm writing that in there right now. And as I told Nora, this is such a vast issue. It's so hard to explain in short. And I welcome anybody that wants to. You can find my number on the website, everything. If you have questions further, you can reach out to me. I'll answer. You email my email. If enough people are interested, I would love to sit down and actually go more in depth on this, because people need to know. This is going to be a bipartisan issue. It's going to hurt a lot of people, and it's going to have generational impacts. And if you're a Republican and conservative movement, this is 100% going to impact us going forward, and especially anybody like myself or anyone else who's going to run as candidates later on. They will not touch us. We will be forever branded with this, and that's going to be a serious situation.
Carlos, before you leave, I wanted to ask you. So they were saying that the making it into a museum is not financially possible, and they were also saying that they were going to turn it to a reef to make it the largest man-made reef. So do you feel like it can be afforded? And being the largest man-made reef seems like a great accomplishment.
So here's the thing where there's a lot of misinformation being spread by the county. Let's talk about artificial reefs, for example. Artificial reefs aren't measured in length alone. They seem to think it is. What they're trying to do is beat the USS Oriskany by length, because their USS Oriskany is about 88 feet shorter than the United States. Artificial reefs are measured in volume, length, height, width, and clean materials. Very important. You can't get classified as an artificial reef unless you get a signed document by the EPA and other different regulatory agencies that state this is an artificial reef. It's clean of materials. If you sink this vessel as the way it is, it's not clean material. Even in the size generation, it's not going to take that artificial reef title. So this is merely a marketing ploy for them, and this is what they've been pushing. The flip side of that is they said, this can't be a museum ship. Well, it can with the right people. Unfortunately, the stewardship hasn't been greatest for the last 52 years. But at the end of the day, it can be. Their idea of a museum that they're claiming now is literally, they ripped off the funnels. They're giving it to the same organization that had to sell the ship to make a land-based museum that literally looks like two funnels just sticking out of the ground. If you look this up online, that's not a museum. The ship is the museum. There's no other way around that. There's also been comments recently by the National Resource Manager who said that the only other option is scrapping. The ship is nowhere near capability of becoming a museum anymore if we had to abandon the Reef project. Well, that's not our problem. You did this. When you got the ship, the funnels were on there. Everything was intact the way it was for the last 73 years. You did this. You need to replace it. That's the bottom line. And it 100% can be restored as a museum ship. They're just only choosing their pockets to line. It's that simple.
So my question is this, Carlos, they bought the ship already. So how do you undo it? Do you make them whole? Like, what would you recommend the government should do?
So like I was saying with that EO that I proposed, that is a legal pathway along with the America 250 Maritime Heritage Act and the resolution 649 that the New York City Council had put through to the president and Congress. If all three of those are used together and they can get to Congress and the president, what happens is they enact those things, they put those programs into play, they the president signs off on that EO, and then ultimately what happens is they exercise their lawful right, which they're allowed to do by the constitutional law, by the president. And then he would trade the SL7 I was mentioning, which would give the county their safer version of a vessel to actually meet the reef goals and just compensation. This way, they're compensated for whatever materials they may have remediated up till date. And, so everybody wins as this. We get the ship back, and then you get private-public partnerships. So, I mean, that's, I think having the New York City Council support right now, I mean, that's huge. That's a government entity, stating that we want to save the ship. While many might say it's symbolic, and that's all it is, it's actually more powerful than you think. So I think that's something that this administration and others need to really think about. And we need to really think about, what are we really going to be remembered by for America 250? Polluting the Gulf and destroying a national heritage icon, or are we going to do something that's going to really last another 250 years in memory?
I agree. Well, Carlos, we appreciate you coming. I'm going to let you do your closing thoughts and tell us more about the website before you close out.
Yeah, so I know I kind of talked fast before. It's www.ssus, you spell out preservationfoundation.com. If you go there, you'll find a history there. There's a great video on the homepage. You can learn a lot about the ship, tells the whole history of the ship, very educational. It'll really indicate why this vessel is significant. And at the end of the day, we'll keep you updated with other things that are going on. And you'll also find other different bits of it. There's actually I'm trying to look at it right now. So if you go to the one section, which is interesting, and I haven't updated this yet, but there's called.
You want me to share the screen?
Sure. So Echoes of Legacy is a project that I'm going to start putting together with stories. I've collected the stories and whatnot on that tab. There's a lot of interesting stories. One of those stories is from a United States Merchant Marine friend of mine whose father served on the ship. In that being said, it is tragic when you hear a story like that and what a county like this wants to do. So check out the Echoes of Legacy format because it's important, because this is one last thing, is that this ship is the symbolic flagship of the United States Merchant Marine. This is the same academy that President Trump is actively revitalizing at Kings Point, New York. I mean, think about what that'll make him look like if they sink their flagship. Not to mention they're a federal entity that's not allowed to speak. They can't speak out on this. Captain Sean Tutorial's story is fascinating. Definitely check it out. That's a picture right there that you just looked at, and there's a plaque for it. This ship is literally woven into the fabric of their academy. I mean, the history is rich. That's his father right there. I mean, it's heartbreaking to, and this is one of hundreds of stories, and I have to put more up on there, but I mean, it's devastating. It's really, really devastating because, we don't honor our heritage, and, we decide that we don't honor protecting our waterways. To give you context real quick, lastly, is that, if anybody's been to the West Coast, the RMS Queen Mary that's out there, they call it the ghost ship that everybody goes to. That's the ship that this vessel, the United States, stole the transatlantic speed record from in 1952 and has held it since. She beat that ship by 10 hours in both directions, crushed her. And yet we lift up England's queen on our 250th and destroy our first lady. I mean, that says enough in itself. I mean, we're literally honoring all these foreign vessels that are foreign flagged, and we're just not taking care of our own. I mean, and then poison our Gulf. It's terrible.
For sure. Carlos, we definitely appreciate you coming. We definitely want to bring you back to keep us posted on this. This is like a really interesting, important topic that we'll definitely be following. I'm going to pull you back, but stay backstage, and we're going to do our closing thoughts as a team. Enzo, what's your closing thoughts?
You're muted.
Oops. All right. My bad. I muted on both. Okay. So my closing thoughts are, this was a very good episode. Carlos, thank you for coming. Candace Owens and Alex Jones. I think this is like another psyop type thing, like the Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes beef, or Candace is just running out of money and Alex Jones got to pay his legal fees for the whole Sandy Hook thing. So who really knows what that is? This is just distraction that they just want to put out there. Because you got the one that's mainstream, it's all on X, it's all on TikTok, it's everywhere else. And then you got the crazies that go to Rumble and go watch Alex Jones. This will blow over in like 2 weeks that these guys are beefing. So who really gives a shit about them?
Damn. Now who cares? Come on, what's your closing thoughts?
Man, Enzo, you got a point, man. Shit. Alex Jones with them legal fees, and Candace Owens, I keep telling y'all she grifting, but get your grift on, I guess, man. Carlos, I appreciate you coming on here and explaining what the hell is going on with the ship and everything, and explained it so like you explained to a 5-year-old, because at first I did not know what you were talking about, but once you explained it, I understand this is like a big deal. I appreciate you coming on, letting us know about this. Shout out to everybody on the panel, from Gray, who don't like animals no more. Nora, I appreciate you. You feel me? Enzo, appreciate you. Maybe one day I'll come up on the panel and roast show chat. You feel me? Shout out to King and Mia. Shout out to you too. Y'all was on here earlier. I know I came on late. I had some other obligations I had to handle real quick. Shout out to everybody in the chat. I appreciate y'all. Hope y'all have some good resolutions. You feel me? Unless you're a jackass that was in the chat. That Danny, bruh. You feel me? And Eric, you right, bruh. You right. Because in San Diego Imperial Beach, it be stinking over there. That sewer is terrible over there. I didn't know you couldn't surf over there no more, but Eric is right in the chat, man. It is very bad over there. And especially when you get closer to the border, it get terrible over there. The stinkiness, man. It just be terrible. You feel me? But shout out to Eric for that. You feel me? And you still a motherfucker. I saw you in the chat talking shit. I appreciate you though, bro. Anyway, I got the new party pinned to the top of my chat. Y'all click on the link, sub to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when they go live. If you want to come over to on my side, Kamal Johnson Network, hit your bird with a sub. Also hit that notification bell so you know when I go live. Resolutions, man. Be about it. Don't be no little hoe about it. That's what I gotta say. You feel me? Into 2026, we're gonna find some left-leaning events to go to. I would not let Mia say y'all broke and don't got no goddamn money. And we might set some shit up our damn self. We'll have some lemonade out there for Don Lemonade. He probably come out, you feel me? And we're gonna have who else in the DNC? We're gonna have like 31 wigs for Joy Reid. She gonna come back. We're gonna most definitely have Roland Martin. We have some butter biscuits for you. You feel me? We're gonna get it popping. And Gray, we gotta have an animal analogy before we go out the new year, bro. We gotta have at least one.
Oh God, Gray.
Thank you, Carlos, for coming. As far as the Candace Owens, Alex Jones beef, I mean, you never know what to have on your bingo card with right-wing influencers. It's basically turned into entertainment, and it's entertaining to do the podcast to talk about this. So all this stuff we'll keep track of. As far as Carlos with the ship, I just watched the Titan documentary. We covered this on here. So it's literally we came on here. If you don't know what a Titan documentary is, it's a submarine where this guy was building a private company. He took it down multiple times, and like they weren't checking on it and things like that. So that's scary to me, going out on the water and things not being checked. So I think it's good that someone's talking about the environment and someone's actually taking a look at vehicles that's on the water. Kamal, as far as the animal analogy, I don't know if you heard this one, but it was a frog it was a scorpion that went to a frog, and the scorpion asked the frog, "Can you take me over the river?" And then the frog says no, because as soon as I take you over the river, you're gonna sting me in the back. And then the scorpion says, "No, I promise I won't sting you in the back." So the frog takes the deal, and then the frog and the scorpion are halfway across the river. And then the frog yells, "Ah!" and feels a sting in his back and says, "Why did you sting me? Now we both shall drown." And the scorpion's reply was, "Sorry, it's just in my nature." Like we always tell a new party, always vote.
He used a Trump analogy. Anyways, guys, 2026 is going to be the best year yet. The best is yet to come. Happy early New Year's. Happy New Year's to everybody. Come back tomorrow night. We will be doing the best of the Man Cave show. The topic will be one of our top shows. We broke 100,000 views that night. It was about Charlie Kirk. And then Thursday night's best of will be about MAGA censorship. That was our next best show of the year. We broke 60,000 views that night. So it's been a very successful year. I owe it all to our team, Enzo, Kamal, Mia, Skeptic, Ray, Mr. Rippy, 85, Ken, Graham. Am I forgetting anybody? I feel like I am. Doc. Thank you guys for the phenomenal year that we've had. Let's make it another 2 million views because we're at 2.2 million views. So don't discount the small little guys. We are getting there. Hopefully next year we will have 1 million subs. We're gonna do it big. We're gonna do it big. We almost reached our goal. So if you guys please could hit that notification bell or that subscribe bell. We are almost to 10,000. That was our goal for the year. We are almost there. We're at 8,000. So if you're not already subscribed, please hit that subscribe bell. We still got one more day. Maybe tonight, this week, or the last 24 hours will get us there. But we appreciate you. And also, we have IRL content coming. Kamal should know this. We are doing a meetup as a team. So more to come on that. We will have IRL content for you. But anyways, like we always say on the new party, always vote. God bless. And